In a moment, I'll speak to Toni McCaff, whose daughter Dana died from whooping cough when she was too young to be immunised. But first, Dr. Chris Ingall is with me. He's a Lismore paediatrician. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Joe.
What did you make of Senator Brian Burston's comments regarding the ABC and regarding the vaccination debate, saying the ABC should be providing, quote, two sides of the story?
Yes, we've heard this, of course, here in the Northern Rivers for a long time, and it created a lot of grief for a lot of babies and children. I think what Senator Burston is probably making a political stance, but the actual, when you look at information and knowledge, there's a lot of information out there on the web which is downright wrong. But when you add it all up, it looks like a sizable body of work. When you're looking at knowledge, which is how that information actually applies to the real world, which is where we are dealing all the time, it just doesn't stack up at all. And we see this every day with vaccination, and vitamin K is also a good example of a supplement given after birth, where people are given information across the net or by well-meaning peers or family, and when we explain to them what it actually means if their baby isn't given vitamin K or isn't given vaccination, and give them, if you like, the reality of the matter, many people go, oh, my goodness, I'll take vitamin K, I'll take vaccination. They were ill-informed.
In part of the conversation, Senator Burston described this as a left and right issue and said that the ABC should be balanced, providing both the left perspective and the right perspective on vaccination. Is that the way you would categorise this discussion?
Probably not. I think it's as far from the truth as you can possibly get. And it just underlines the fact that he's taking a political stance on what should be a knowledgeable debate, not a political one.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us.
A pleasure.
Has been advising the government about how to convince parents of the science behind this. She and her husband David lost their daughter Dana in 2009 when she was just 4 weeks old. Toni, good morning.
Good morning.
So is it distressing to you to hear conversations like this in the media by people who are representatives elected by Parliament, elected to Parliament?
It's incredibly distressing. You know, balance does not equal false balance. You know, impartiality means it's balance following the weight of evidence. It does not mean giving airtime to people that intentionally mislead parents and will result in babies dying.
Are you concerned that do you have any concern that the Parliament might actually change the ABC's charter in order to accommodate the wishes of Senator Burston?
I think all politicians of every persuasion need to be very careful when considering this legislation and to leave the politics out of it. Vaccination is a public health issue. It's not about opinions, it's about the science and the facts. And the facts are that the benefits far outweigh the risks. And when vaccination rates drop, disease increases. And what I would say to One Nation is, rather than listen to their anti-vax lobby, perhaps they should listen to their most vulnerable constituents, tiny babies who rely on all of us to vaccinate. You know, we need to protect new parents from being misled by inaccurate information that's spread by anti-vaxxers. And it's these dangerous lies, you know, they should not be given airtime on a national broadcaster.
The federal government has a new campaign trying to promote factual information out there. Can you tell us what you know about that? And because I understand you're involved in advising the government.
Yeah, look, earlier this year I met with the Prime Minister and the Minister for Health, Greg Hunt, and you know, made the point that, you know, with their legislation for no jab, no pay, no jab, no play, that we needed to educate the community on why they're vaccinating. And the reason why we vaccinate is that we need to protect our children from dangerous diseases, and that while we have 93% coverage for 5-year-olds nationally, it needs to be 95% for herd immunity. But in areas like ours, we have much lower rates of vaccination, and so therefore we have high rates of disease. And for example, earlier this year, we had 9 times the rate of whooping cough than the mid-far North Coast. So this isn't a political debate. What they're actually doing here is they're playing with children's lives.
It's a $5.5 million campaign, I understand. Do you know how that campaign is going to roll out? Is there going to be a large social media contingent, for example?
Yes, it's mainly a social media contingent, but also they have a website, Get the Facts. And the reason we feel so strongly about this is that I can't emphasise enough to parents, when you go online, you are exposed, like Dr. Ingall said, to a proliferation of anti-vaccination material. And, you know, if you have read or you've heard something that's frightened you about vaccines, you know, like if you're reading anything that infers that a disease is not harmful, it's in some way beneficial, or you're reading that vaccines contain mercury, which they do not, you're reading anti-vaccination material. By having this website available, it's a source of information to get the real facts, which will be backed up by, you know, with health professionals taking the time to answer the questions of parents.
When Pauline Hanson spoke about vaccination earlier in the year, there was an outcry from many people, doctors, and of course other politicians, saying she was just plain wrong. And I know that you were interviewed on the TV show The Project at the time and met the Prime Minister after that. Is it distressing that the message doesn't seem to have got through to One Nation politicians, that they don't seem to have learned from that experience? Pauline Hanson had to back down from her comments, but yet her compatriots are still coming out with this kind of misinformation.
Oh, look, I am very, very concerned about it, because as an elected official, they should be dealing with the facts. And, you know, it really distresses me that they are being influenced by what seems they're being influenced by the anti-vaccine lobby. And I would say to them, perhaps they should go and spend more time and educate themselves and go into a paediatric intensive care unit to actually understand what these diseases can do. You know, they need to understand if an unvaccinated baby catches whooping cough, they have a 1 in 100 chance of dying. You know, they should spend the night with parents by the bedside of a child having coughing attacks every 5 to 10 minutes to actually understand why it is that we need to get the real facts out there about immunisation. With what they're suggesting, you know, there is no debate on vaccination. There is just the science. And overwhelmingly, the scientific community is united on the reason why we need to vaccinate. So the only people that should be commenting on vaccination are those that are qualified to do so. So it's immunologists, paediatricians, infectious disease experts, and these people have decades of study behind them. They should not be put up against a self-appointed expert with a degree in Google.
Toni McCaff, thank you very much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
Toni McCaff on ABC North Coast. She's a local mother and someone who has taken on the vaccination cause after losing her own daughter in 2009.